marching on together. Not so fast, Whites faithful. What I'm about to tell you will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about this season. We're talking about a manager throwing his own players under the bus, a star winger admitting he's been absolutely dreadful, and whispers of the special one himself potentially swooping into West Yorkshire like a tactical vulture. Listen up, because what's unfolding at Elland Road right now is bigger than just 3 separate stories. This is about the very soul of our beloved Leeds United hanging in the balance. We've got an attacking crisis that's making championship teams look like Barcelona, a manager who's basically given up on half his squad, and boardroom drama that could see everything change faster than you can say, "We are Leeds." Smash that like button right now, because you're going to want to share this madness with every Leeds fan, you know? Hit subscribe because this story is far from over. And buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal about our current striker situation will make your blood boil and your heart race at the same time. But first, let me ask you this. What happens when a manager publicly destroys 4 of his own players while the vultures circle overhead? The answer will shock you, and it starts with a German coach who's apparently had enough. Daniel Farke, yeah, our own gaffer, just delivered the most brutal public assassination I've ever seen a Leeds manager dish out. This isn't some behind closed doors bollocking, Whites faithful. This is a full-scale public execution of 4 of his own attacking players, and honestly, I'm not sure if I should be applauding his honesty or questioning his sanity. Picture this. You're sitting in that press conference, cameras rolling, journalists scribbling, and your manager starts naming names like he's reading a hit list. Wilfried Gnonto, our Italian stallion who was supposed to be tearing up the Premier League by now, gets called out for having 0 goals and 0 assists in the league this season. That's right, folks. Our supposed wonder kid is running around Elland Road like he's forgotten what a football actually is. But wait, it gets worse. Farke then turns his attention to Dan James. And let me tell you, the Welsh wizard must have felt like he'd been hit by a Yorkshire thunderbolt. Has a point to prove on this level. That's manager speak for "you've been absolutely shocking, mate." Then there's Jack Harrison, remember him? The lad who was supposed to come back and light up the Premier League again. Well, according to Farke, he's still on the run to win all the supporters back. Translation, the fans think you're garbage, and frankly, so do I. And as if that wasn't enough carnage for one press conference, he absolutely buries Brendan Aronson too. 4 players, 4, are publicly thrown under the bus by their own manager. I've seen some brutal press conferences in my time following Leeds, but this was like watching Farke load up a cannon and fire it directly at his own dressing room. Here's what's really eating at me, Whites faithful. We've only scored 2 goals in 4 games this season. 2! My Sunday league team scores more than that, and half of them turn up hungover. We're supposed to be back in the Premier League, mixing it with the big boys, and we're playing like we're afraid of our own shadows. But here's the £1,000,000 question that's keeping me up at night. If Farke is this desperate to publicly shame his own players, what the hell is happening behind closed doors at Thorpe Arch? Because what I'm about to tell you next will make this look like a friendly chat. Just when you thought things couldn't get any more uncomfortable at Elland Road, Willie Gnonto himself steps up to the microphone and basically confirms every Leeds fan's worst nightmare. This lad, who we've been desperately hoping would finally fulfill his potential, just looked into the BBC cameras and admitted that his performances have been mixed. And in football terms, that's like saying the Titanic had a slight water problem. Listen to this, Whites faithful. Gnonto actually said, and I quote, "I expected better, obviously." Obviously? Mate, you've got 0 goals, 0 assists, and you're moving around the pitch like you're wearing concrete boots. The entire fan base expected better. We expected Premier League magic, not championship mediocrity dressed up in white. But here's what's really grinding my gears. The honesty is almost worse than the denial would have been. When your supposedly star player comes out and basically says, "Yeah, I've been rubbish," what does that tell you about the mentality in that dressing room? It tells you that nobody is stepping up. Nobody is taking responsibility, and everyone is just hoping someone else will save the season. Dan James is struggling so badly for Wales that even the international break couldn't give him confidence. Think about that. A player can't even perform for his country anymore because his club form is so shocking. We're talking about a winger who once looked unstoppable, now playing like he's forgotten how to kick a ball in the right direction. And don't even get me started on our record in London. 6 losses in the last 10 meetings with Fulham alone. 6. We're supposed to be this mighty Leeds United, the team that used to make other clubs tremble, and now we're heading to the capital like lambs to the slaughter. The 5-0 hammering at Arsenal wasn't just a bad day at the office, it was a warning sign that nobody seems to be taking seriously. The most terrifying part? We haven't scored from open play in the Premier League this season. Not once. Every single goal has come from penalties, and we can't even take those properly, missing all 3 in a shootout against Sheffield Wednesday. It's like watching a once proud lion trying to hunt with 3 broken legs. But if you think this crisis is just about players losing form, you're about to discover something that will shake you to your core. Because while our attackers are confessing their failures and our manager is throwing public tantrums, there's a much bigger storm brewing in the background. Hold on to your scarves, Whites faithful, because this final bombshell will have you questioning everything you thought you knew about our season. While Daniel Farke is busy publicly executing his own players and Willie Gnonto is confessing his sins to the BBC, there's been a legend, the legend, watching from the shadows, and his name sends shivers down the spine of every Premier League manager. Jose Mourinho, the special one himself, has been sacked from Fenerbahce, and guess whose name is being whispered in the same breath as Elland Road? That's right, the most successful manager of the modern era could be heading to West Yorkshire. And honestly, I don't know whether to be terrified or excited. Here's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this whole situation. The 49ers and Parag Maratha are apparently completely calm about Farke's position. While half the fan base is calling for his head after watching our attackers play like they've never seen a football before, the owners are sitting there saying, everything's fine, nothing to see here. But is it really? Think about this logically, Whites faithful. Why would Jose Mourinho's name even be mentioned in connection with Leeds if there wasn't something brewing behind the scenes? This is a man who's won the Champions League twice, conquered every major league in Europe, and his idea of a quiet Tuesday is probably more intense than our entire season so far. The most incredible part of this whole saga. Back in October, Mourinho said he'd never take a relegation battle job because it's too difficult. But here's the thing that should terrify every Leeds fan. If our current form continues, if Farke keeps publicly destroying his own players' confidence, and if we keep playing like we're afraid of our own shadows, we will be in a relegation battle. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, remember him? Was supposed to be our savior, our big money striker who would solve all our problems. Instead, he's had what can only be described as a nightmare debut. And now, even that signing looks like it could backfire spectacularly. We've got a striker who can't score, wingers who've forgotten how to create, and a midfield that's as creative as a concrete wall. But here's what really gets me about this Mourinho speculation. It's not just idle gossip. Reports earlier this summer claimed that Leeds actually offered him the job. Can you imagine that conversation? Hey Jose, fancy coming to Yorkshire to sort out this absolute mess? And apparently we're still on his radar. The question that's burning in every Leeds fan's mind right now is this. Are we watching the final days of the Daniel Farke era? Because if results don't improve, if our attackers don't start producing, and if that special one comes knocking again, everything could change faster than a Yorkshire weather forecast. Smash that like button if you think Mourinho at Elland Road would be the most insane appointment in our history. Hit subscribe because this story is developing faster than we can keep up with. And tell me in the comments, do you want the special one at Leeds? Or should we stick with Farke and hope this attacking crisis sorts itself out? Because let me tell you something, Whites faithful, we're not just marching on together anymore. We're marching toward one of the most crucial periods in our recent history. And what happens next could define the next decade at Elland Road. Mote!